Hi, this is Allie from Sweet Cake Bake Shop. We are baking up two delicious recipes today, our chocolate sour cream bundt cake and our classic chocolate chip cookie. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to make our ganache topping, and this is a really easy trick to do and easy to remember because it's a 3-2-1 rule. I take 3 cups of chocolate chips, good quality, 2 cups of heavy whipping cream, and a stick of butter. And I just microwave that in a microwave safe bowl, or you can do it over a double broiler water bath. And you just microwave it until it's nice and combined. You want to make sure that you don't overcook it, and you end up with this beautiful consistency ganache. Another thing that you can do is you can set it up. I don't know if you can see how thick that gets. Once it sets up at room temperature, you can refrigerate it overnight, and then you can whisk it on a stand mixer and until it about triples in size, and then that becomes a beautiful frosting that you can use on a cake. I love using a whipped ganache on cakes because it's not overly sweet. Just 3 simple ingredients and you have a beautiful topping. Okay, so we just finished our topping for the chocolate cake, and we are going to start into how to make the cake, the chocolate cake. So in here we have our Master Light Mix, which is a cake flour blend that I developed. I've added to it xanthan gum, salt, and baking soda. You want to make sure to whisk that after you add it all together. You don't have to sift it. My flour blend contains almond meal, so it doesn't really sift that good. You just want to make sure it's all nice and blended. And then in our stand mixer, fitted with the paddle attachment, you want to start beating together your sugars, which I've got dark brown sugar and regular granulated sugar with 4 sticks of softened butter, room temperature butter. I'm going to finish adding all of that in. You're going to cream this together. This is an important step to not go too quickly on. You want to make sure that your sugars are all mixed in really, really well with your butter. Then you're going to start adding your eggs one at a time. I like adding my vanilla in with my eggs. It makes it go a lot quicker. So we've got 8 eggs here. We're just going to add those in small portions. Make sure that you mix and combine everything very, very well in between before adding the rest. You know, one of the fun things about this chocolate cake is every home baker should have a good chocolate cake recipe in your recipe box. So this is one that you can change a few ingredients and turn it into so many fun different things. At the bakery, we make one of our more popular items. We make it's called Better Than Anything cake, and we take a chocolate cake, poke holes in the top, we make a house-made caramel, add whipped cream and toffee bits on the top. It just makes it a lot of fun that you can take a basic recipe and convert it over into several different recipes. This one is my standard chocolate cake that I would make every Sunday for my kids. Anytime I was taking dinner into friends, this is the cake I would take them. It's fun to do, just a basic, really, really good topping. You can pair it with fruit. You can put fresh cream on the side. Just makes it a lot of fun. You can turn it into a birthday cake. I think that's the thing that that you miss the most when you get diagnosed with, or when I was diagnosed with celiac disease. This is the recipe I craved the most. I wanted a really, really good, delicious, decadent, rich chocolate cake, and I couldn't find one. So I kind of went back to doing some research on my own and developed my own flour blends, and from there, this was the first recipe I made, and made it for my friends and family. You know, that's really what baking is. The best part of baking is being able to share creations with your friends and family. So after that's done, we've got all of our eggs and our butter and our sugar in there, and then we're going to add in our flour in small portions and then mix it. And they're a really good tip to remember with gluten-free is you want to layer in your wets and your dries. So I've got my basic wet started here, and then I'll show you the layering process. This is an incredibly important step because if you dump everything together and you don't stop and take the time to scrape down the sides of your bowl, get all the ingredients really incorporated well, then you're gonna have interesting things happen. You have butter bursts, you have other things that don't get mixed in and end up making not a uniform product at the end. So this is the part you just want to go very slowly. I'm gonna splash all over. I'll have to cut that part out. Okay, and then add in some more dry ingredients. Just layer it in with the milk. I have milk and I've got sour cream. We're gonna add that in at the end. This mixture is what I started with. This is just water and cocoa powder. You wanna boil the water and then add in your cocoa powder. I call it my chocolate slurry. This is kind of the secret to this whole recipe. So you want to add that in, makes it really, really moist and very, very chocolatey. And yes, you want your cake to be all of those things. You want to make sure to get all the bits and pieces out. Okay. You can also take and change up the measurements on your cocoa powder. You can do a dark cocoa and change it into a slightly darker chocolate cake. This is just standard Dutch processed cocoa powder. Gherkins is my favorite brand. You want to do this in portions. Okay, layer in some more of our flour. Do not add this all in at once. You'll end up with a very undermixed cake. That's another secret with gluten-free. So when you're doing cakes gluten-free, traditional baking, you want to be really careful not to overmix your batter. With gluten-free, that is not a rule we follow. You definitely want to get more air incorporated into the mixture. So I always add my ingredients. I do the layering process at the start. And you want to add your ingredients in slowly, layering your wet and your dries after you've mixed your eggs and your sugar and your butter together. And then once you've got most of it incorporated, then you can turn up your speed. And you want to let this whip for a minute. This is exactly opposite of what you would do with regular baking. Yeah. I'm going to add this in so it doesn't splash on me. We're getting really full here. I'm used to it. We're going to let this mix on low just until everything's incorporated. And then we're going to turn it up on high. You want to let it whip. I would do this for about 20 seconds. Once all of your ingredients are in there, turn it up on high, let it whip, let it get air whipped into that batter. Again, this is the opposite of what you would do with regular baking. The longer you whip this, the better. It's going to smooth out the cake. It's going to smooth out your batter, make everything really beautiful. Okay, and then right at the end, we're going to add in sour cream. It's about a half cup of sour cream that we're going to add in here right at the end. And this part you do not want to overmix. You either fold it by hand or just go in really low. Get all that incorporated in there. This is a fun recipe because I'm turning it into a Bundt cake today. You can do, like I said earlier, you can do a layered cake. You can also do cupcakes out of this. You can do sheet cake. Really have fun with it. It's very versatile. Just a basic chocolate cake. There is one thing with gluten-free is you have to have a good flour. I say this all the time. Without a good flour base, something that is going to, do well in the recipe, hold the texture, the mouthfeel, I call it. You don't want something that is super starchy because it kind of dissolves in your mouth and leaves this residual crumb that is not a pleasant thing. So having a really good flour base is incredibly important with gluten-free. And that's it. That's the basic chocolate cake recipe. This is our chocolate sour cream cake that we make at the bakery. I'm going to pour it into a buttered Bundt pan. And then with gluten-free, another tip is you want to make sure to bake things at a slightly lower temperature than you would with regular baking. So I always say to take it down about 25 degrees to start. Test your oven and see, how quickly it goes. This should take about 55 to 65 minutes of baking in a Bundt pan. The temperature of the oven, it's not convection, it's just regular. So I've got it set to 330 degrees. So I would start anywhere from 325 to 330. Just want to make sure all of your ingredients are mixed in. And we're going to pour it into our pan. Spread out the top. And there you have it. I'm going to bake that and come back and top it and taste it. Oh, we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got our chocolate cake in the oven, so we're going to move on to another recipe, and that is a chocolate chip cookie. So in the stand mixer, I have four sticks of butter, and then we are going to add to our butter dark brown sugar and granulated sugar. And we are going to mix that together until we're going to cream it together until it is nice and fluffy and about doubled in size. Oh, okay. So we're going to cream this together until it's about doubled in size. Once your butter and your sugars get incorporated together, then you can start adding in your eggs. And I've got eggs and vanilla in here, and I want to add them in just one at a time. Make sure everything is incorporated really well. Okay. And then here I have my master mix. So this is a different flour than the one we were using before. The one I was using before is Master Light. That is a cake flour. It is a blend of 6 different gluten-free flours. So Master Light has white rice flour, brown rice flour, tapioca, potato, almond meal, and coconut flour. So I mix those together. That is my Master Light. My Master Mix is got a few more other ingredients in there. So it has brown and white rice flour, it has tapioca, potato, corn, almond meal, and coconut flour. That's what makes up the master mix. Sweet white rice flour, and this is my all-purpose mix. I use it for cookies, I use it for bread. The sweet white rice flour gives things pull and texture and chew, so I add a little bit of that into my master mix. None of my mixes contain xanthan gum. You want to be able to modify your xanthan gum according to what recipe you're making. Xanthan gum rules are a teaspoon per cup of flour for things that are a bread or a bread-like texture, half teaspoon for cakes or cake-like texture, and a quarter teaspoon per cup of flour for things that like cookies or a cookie texture. So you want to be able to modify and control the crumb with the binder you're adding in. Again, temperature and humidity play a big role in that. So once this is all together and fluffy and beautiful, then we are going to add our flour mixture. And this has master mix. It's got xanthan gum and a little bit of baking soda in there. So we're going to add this into our wet ingredients in portions. Kind of the same process as before where you're layering ingredients. Now there's a tip with gluten-free baking. When you are making cakes, over mixing helps. You want to mix that batter till it changes color. It's about triple in size. If you were doing that with regular baking, it would ruin your batter. With cookies, you do not want to over mix this. So you want to add it in, and it keeps the cookie texture tender and chewy. So you want to add in just small portions. You can also do this portion by hand. As long as your butter and your sugars are creamed really well, this part's very easy to do by hand. I like to get it started in my mixer, and then the rest of it I do by hand so that I don't risk over mixing anything. So again, add in just portions at a time. Careful not to over mix. Okay, we've got almost all of it is mixed in there. One more round. Again, this is another really great recipe to have for a home baker. Just a really good chocolate chip cookie recipe. Can make it special. You can add in, you can make these smaller, scoop them smaller and put in ice cream in the middle. We sell those in the shop, little ice cream cookie sandwiches. So I'm gonna take this, and I use the paddle attachment on almost everything we do, even cakes. It makes some of the batters with gluten-free, the flours we're using are a little bit more dense and heavy. So you want to make sure that you have the ability to really mix those well. Not everything works well with the hand, with mixing things by hand. Okay. So I'm going to take my basic cream or my butter and my sugars that have been creamed. I'm going to add these in here. And this is something that we're going to just finish everything with a wooden spoon. That way we don't overmix anything. Okay. And we're going to add in our chocolate chips. And get a wooden spoon and do this, pull that all together. The other thing you want to remember with baking gluten-free, it's important to let your dough rest. Anytime you add in xanthan gum, letting the dough rest helps to tighten the dough, makes everything less grainy, but you definitely want to give it time to rest. One of the things I loved and missed the most about baking with my kids is, you know, they would get up on the counter and they would, want to be in the whole process. And when I converted over to gluten-free after my celiac diagnosis, one of the things that they weren't able to do before I made my own flour was eating the raw dough. I know that sounds like a silly thing, but I just missed being able to do that with my kids. So when I was developing my flour, I tried to really focus on the things that not only worked well together, but had kind of a neutral taste. Just that good neutral base to start to make any recipe, really. But having my kids participate and licking their fingers or eating the raw dough is a big thing. Not all gluten-free flours you can do that with. With mine you can. You can eat the raw dough. Okay, so you just want to keep mixing this by hand until all of it's well incorporated. And again, with chilling the dough overnight, you want to, 24 hours is best, minimum an hour in the fridge or freezer. You can also make these ahead of time, freeze them, just make sure they come close to room temperature. With gluten-free cookies, again, you want to use a lower baking time, longer baking time sometimes, depending on the recipe, and then a lower oven. So I would start these again at 325. Every oven bakes different, so just test yours out at home. You're gonna know how quickly it's cooking based on that first. We rotate halfway through baking time, and on that first rotation, you're gonna be able to tell how quickly that's browning, and you can cut that baking time down or turn your temperature down on your oven. And then what we're gonna do is put these on a parchment-lined baking pan. Always, because this dough has to rest, you want to make sure to always get your dough mixed, mix it well, and then you're going to scoop it. I like to just line them right up next to each other because I'm going to wrap this and put this in the refrigerator. This is fun too, because then if you were to try to refrigerate this and scoop, you're never going to get it out of here. But always scoop once it's right after you've mixed it. And then if you don't, you can make a big batch of dough and you don't have to use all of this. You can just kind of bake as needed. I would keep it in the refrigerator for about 2 weeks, or you can freeze it for up to 3 months. And you'll have, as long as it's tightly wrapped, airtight. So you just want to continue doing this. And then wrap it really well, give it some chill time in the fridge, and then we'll come back and bake them and see how they taste. We'll be right back. Okay, we got our chocolate cake out of the oven. It's still nice and warm. So we're gonna take our ganache that has been just heated slightly, and then just pour this right over the top. You just want to go in a nice circular motion, and then it will naturally just fall down the sides. And then what I like to do is just fill it with some chopped strawberries right at the end. You can always reserve some of this ganache to serve on the side. That recipe makes more than enough for this cake, and then you can have some for a future occasion. And then just take our strawberries and fill the center. You can also do macerated strawberries, so just add a little bit of sugar. These are just plain. I don't like the extra sugar. Just top it like that. Very simple, very delicious, and very beautiful. Doesn't have to be that complicated. You don't have to have a lot of difficult ingredients. And this is one that you can use for literally any occasion. There you have it. Okay, so here we have our final product, our chocolate cake with our ganache topped with fresh strawberries, our plated chocolate chip cookies, two very simple, delicious recipes that you can use for any occasion. Dress them up or dress them down. Two really good ones to have in your recipe box. And you can visit us at Sweet Cake UT on Instagram, or you can go to our website at sweetcakebakeshop.com, or you can visit us in person at the bakery in Bountiful, Utah. And this is Allie from Sweet Cake Bake Shop, and I will see you next time.